Welcome to Interesting Minds of the Lowcountry. Join us for candid conversations that reveal the stories, insights, and experiences that define success in our community. Here are your hosts, Angela Huser and Will Savage.
My name is Angela Huser, and I am with the Anchor Home Group of Keller Williams Realty.
And I'm Will Savage. I'm with PMC Mortgage.
We are starting this podcast because in my time here, I know that we've had this conversation before, but there are some very interesting characters or people in our community that we just would love to sit down with them, learn more about their story and what led them to where they are today.
Yeah, and share, Bluffton, the Lowcountry is such a small little spot on a map, but has a huge impact. And you don't realize the people that are your neighbors and what they do and who they are and the impact that they're actually having on our community. And so that's our goal, is to sit down with them, talk about what drives them, what they do, what their businesses are, how we can possibly help their business, and hopefully share with our listeners, it may provide value to them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the very first episode, we interview James Dismond,
mm-hmm.
who's a good friend of yours, good friend of mine.
I've had the pleasure of calling James Dismond a friend for a very long time. He is now the CEO of Hospice Care of the Lowcountry, so he's going to share with us some insight in his role with Hospice Care, and then, of course, how we can contribute to it and support their cause.
Yeah, and James is also a very brilliant business. His role is business development. That's where he got into it. So we're going to discuss goals. Obviously, being the beginning of the year, everybody has goals these days. They're starting, new year, new me stuff, and but business goals, fiscal, monetary goals, professional growth goals. My team had our goal meeting of what we want to achieve. Obviously, we have our monetary goals that we need to meet, right, to stay afloat, and what I need for my family to be able to provide for them, and then plus a little extra so I can, go on vacation and go out to eat. What goals did you set? You have a new team.
Right, so. Yes. And funny enough, we actually sat down with James, was it last week at this point? And he truly is just such a visionary and can get you to think outside of not just the box, but your box, because I think we all... Our minds kind of serve as this individual box for each of us, and sitting down with him and really fine-tuning our vision for the year. And then, not only that, but how we're going to get to achieve that vision and all of our goals. So I'm so excited to have him, especially as our first guest. But to even have him here at all, I know he's such a busy man, but he's sitting down with us and sharing a little bit about him and what he's doing with hospice.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I think people are going to see what he does and the importance of having these nonprofits and what they do for the community. And just the work on the business side too. I mean, everything is a business and what goes into that. So it's going to be awesome.
So without further ado, I would like to welcome James Dismond, CEO and Executive Director of Hospice Care of the Lowcountry.
Let's do it.
All right, a very warm welcome to our first guest, James Dismond of Hospice Care of the Lowcountry. We're so excited to have you. Could you kind of start off by telling us a little bit about you and who you are and really what you do?
Yeah, well, super excited to be here, especially with both of you two, just knowing you so long. A little bit about me. I've been in the Lowcountry for 8 years, moved from the big state of West Virginia to the Lowcountry, which has really been just eye-opening and really good for my career. I think a lot of times people associate the Lowcountry to being the slow country, but I've had the most rapid growth in my career in the past 2 years here. Married for, Sean and I have been together for 8 years. We've been married for 1 year officially. 3 golden doodles that we love. We live on a lake, which you sold us our house, which was amazing, and just committed to making the Lowcountry better.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about Hospice Care of the Lowcountry and your role with them.
Yeah, I've been with Hospice Care Lowcountry for 3.5 years.
Wow.
I've only been the chief executive officer for 11 months. So don't ask me too many questions. I might not know the answers.
Well, how's it going so far?
It's been really beautiful, but also probably the hardest part of my life in general, from a personal perspective, but also from a professional perspective. When you're leading an organization and you have not only your patients to be held accountable for, but also we have 55 employees that, at any given day, I'm making decisions that are going to influence or affect their livelihood.
That's a huge responsibility. For sure.
How did you get into hospice care? I mean, is that something you probably were born and said, I want to be in?
Right.
Yeah, I do believe sometimes it's people's calling. Like like nurses in general will say, I really want to be in the end of life sector.
Sure.
Once they kind of learn about it. For me, though, it was a non-traditional path. I was in not-for-profit fundraising and business development for my entire career since before I even got out of college. And then, essentially at a networking event with one of the chambers, I met the previous executive director, and we started that recruitment networking conversation. And she made me an offer that I couldn't turn down, and I wanted the opportunity to build my own team in the fundraising realm, and she gave me kind of just the hands-off approach to do what I wanted with it, and that kind of started my journey with hospice. But I came in with this huge fallacy of, I'm going to be on the marketing, the fundraising side, no death. I'm not medical, so I won't have to touch death. And then I remember in my first week, 5 patients died, and the nurses were coming in, and there was this big discussion about it, and because we have to, and I was completely overwhelmed. And that's when I learned that my biggest fear was death when dying, but that fear is now turned into my passion, which is really interesting.
That's so awesome. So I know a lot of people probably feel this way or have some kind of preconceived notion about what hospice is. I know I kind of had that mentality before I got to know you in this role. What is hospice care? What do you all do? Tell us, I know that you offer a variety of services to your patients. So I think it would be just really eye-opening to fully understand what it is that hospice care of the Lowcountry is.
Yeah, I think it's really important first. I make this statement often when I speak with people, and it can rub people the wrong way. But the fact of the matter is that when we all woke up this morning, we had less life to live. We're all dying. We're all actively dying every single day.
Great thought.
Cheers to that.
It is. But what you need to do is you need to turn that into a positive reinvestment into your life. And we need to start making decisions just like we planned for. Like, you two are both married, correct?
Right.
Did you plan for your wedding, or did you just wake up and wing it?
Wow.
That's very true.
Actually, pretty much winging it.
So I definitely planned.
Yeah, there's some planning. Like when you go to college, you go see a counselor and you plan it, and you also invest in insurance on your car, insurance, life insurance, all these things, planning for what's going to happen. Well, we're all dying, but very few people plan for death, how they want it to happen, if they have control over that, and then what happens when you're in that moment. And so what Hospice Care of the Lowcountry does is we are in those moments with you at the end of life, and it's your most crucial hour for you, your loved ones, anyone that's even been connected to you, and it's going to drastically impact how they perceive death from that moment on. And we plan for weddings, we plan for all this stuff. It's really like this cliche conversation, and we should just be planning for death. Like, I know what my husband wants at the end of life. I would encourage everyone that's listening and everyone in this room to have that conversation with their loved ones, because I'm guaranteeing you're going to find something that you didn't know.
Right. Yeah. And really what I love about that, because it reminds me of the resources and materials that Hospice Care even provides to the public. I know that I personally have one, and don't kill me for this, but I still haven't completed it. But it's such an easy resource to have that conversation, because you're really just filling out this questionnaire. It's like, what do you want the end of your life to look like? Do you want life-saving measures to be taken? So I think it's such an awesome resource to have something like that, because it gives people the direction and the ability to have that conversation with, a lot less pressure, I think it is.
Yeah, and I think to go back to your question, Will, too, is just, how I got into hospice care was really like what I would call like a God wink, because I didn't know that I wanted it. I didn't know that I needed it. It just kind of happened and everything aligned.
Yeah.
And when your biggest fear becomes your biggest passion, and then I get to wake up and live and work that every single day, I am blessed. And, some people don't get to work and do what they love and make a living off of it. But to be able to spread the education, like you said, you have the resources.
Yeah.
You just need to sit down and use them.
Right.
And so we provide all the resources possible before you get to that end of life conversation.
Right.
Because one of our core values, which I encourage every business to have, our very first one, which every single employee knows, is it's not about dying, it's about living.
Yeah, that's a good transition also, because not only we're talking about hospice, but from a business standpoint, like you were in business development, so talking about core values, how did you create your core values and your goals for this year, and how does that, being from an original standpoint of being in business development and then transitioning into this whole healthcare and dealing with people that are in extraordinarily hard moments, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, business development really opened my eyes, because the number one asset that a business has is their people. And if you're not investing in those people and retaining those people, something is foundationally wrong.
Yeah.
And so we've had employees from 27 years of tenure to volunteers of 15 years of tenure, which really speaks to who we are. But there's also a piece that a lot of people don't want to talk about, and that if you're not being innovative and changing with your market and with just the way that you do business, even if the fundamentals remain the same, like for hospice care, our fundamentals are the same, but our business strategies have to evolve, and we have to have that employee connection and engagement and that positive culture, or it's not going to work.
Right.
And so I noticed that we hadn't really had any core values that we were living and breathing. You don't want descriptive words thrown up on a wall like integrity or compassion. Those are really good words.
Yeah.
But you need some meaning behind it.
Yeah, you have to have the people buy into it.
100%.
Yeah.
People buy in, and you want them preaching that, because they're your best marketers, your workers, your volunteers, your clients. And so we went to our employees and we asked them very specific conversation or specific questions. What do you think about when you hear the word hospice, or when you hear the word dying? What do you think about? And they started throwing out all these phrases.
Right.
And then we had a person dive into the data, and we came out with 3 core values, and we released them to our group of about 45 employees. Then we saw the whole room just kind of. That's it.
What were they?
So the first one is, it's not about dying, it's about living.
I love that.
Yeah, and then for our organization, there's we're really connected to the community. So the words connected and community kept coming out. So our second core value is that we are committed and connected to our community. Simple, efficient, effective, and we love it. And then for healthcare, it's super important that you're always investing in learning and knowing what's coming next before it's even there. Yeah. So we're committed and connected to excellence and having the top quality in our community for hospice, grief care, and also just quality of life in general. So those are our 3 core values. Yeah. And you want those values to correlate to your mission and your vision, but also it's started this whole positive culture conversation. Right. And it's kind of a buzzword in most businesses, but if you can start working on your culture, it changes the game, because people wake up and ready. They want to work for you.
I don't know anybody who's successful in business who says culture doesn't matter.
Yeah,
right.
It's just
Absolutely.
about the money. It's just about the bottom line. No one says that. Everybody in there always says, "Oh, well, especially in my world, mortgages, someone's going to say, oh, that top producer wants to come work for a PMC Mortgage." Well, if that top producer is extraordinarily toxic, and then it pushes away other people I could hire, I'm not going to hire them. Right? They could make me $1 million, but at the end of the day, if that producer is going to keep 5 other producers away, doesn't line up with your culture, like you said, and it might be great for a short period of time, just worrying about the bottom line, but worrying about the culture is for longevity.
Yeah.
So,
I sat through this this webinar with the LinkedIn CEO, and I encourage you to watch it if you're a business owner. But he said people are our best and worst asset. That was really hard to hear that. And then he said, but better yet, people leave because of people.
Right.
So people will leave a business because of people. And he said, but hear me out. That doesn't mean they're leaving because of bad reasons. It could be because the accountability is so high and the culture is so positive that their personality and where they're at currently in their life doesn't fit.
Yeah.
So actually letting someone go and being honest could be the best thing that ever happened to them.
Right.
And that was a big learning point for me, because firing people or letting them go because of change or whatever it may be is really difficult.
Absolutely.
But one of the things that I've adapted as a leader is being a compassionate, intentional leader.
Yeah.
Which means having the hard conversations. And that goes back to positive culture, because negative people influence your culture in a negative way. So if someone's underperforming and you're not addressing it because you don't want to have that hard conversation, you're literally putting a mole in your organization to drive down the culture.
It's a bad look for everybody else.
Right.
But if you hit it head on and you're like, hey, you have a respectful, private conversation and exit them or invest in them for more training, you're doing what you're set out to do, which is lead the organization to the next phase of positive business.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, a strong believer in hire slow, fire quick.
Yeah.
It sounds bad, but unfortunately it's important for culture. So.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I understand that hospice has opened up a new division over the past year, your palliative care division. If not a lot of people know what hospice is, I'm sure they don't know what palliative care is.
Yeah.
So share with us a little bit about what palliative care is and what it means to our community.
So as an industry, we've been focused on hospice care for over 41 years. The hospice realm benefit with CMS, which is the Center of Medicare and Medicaid, and the legislative behind it. So the government policies have not changed for 41 years.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Which therein lies a problem, but we won't go off on that today.
Right.
But hospices are really struggling to survive with that one business line, just like most businesses. So we have to become more integrated to serve our populations.
Right.
And that's where palliative care kind of came about. Like, how can we help these individuals before they get to the last 6 months of their life, which is the definition of hospice, to help them better transition into hospice or help them better transition out with a higher quality of life. And so palliative care is focused on serious illness. And you could look up the statistics. They're staggering of how many of us are going to have a serious illness at some point in our life, if not the entire trajectory of our life. You think about muscular dystrophy, it's a slow progressing disease that affects your entire life once you're diagnosed. There needs to be an extra level of support there. And if you have primary care providers, it can take 6 to 7 months to get an appointment if you have a provider. By then usually your symptoms have subsided, hopefully, and you've kind of forgotten it, out of sight, out of mind. Palliative care is that extra kind of layer and connection. They're the nucleus, sending out the transmissions to all those other people to help them have a better holistic view of what's happening with the patient. And we can be there in the nick of time to help kind of with those symptoms and the mental side as well with our new mental health division that hasn't been announced yet.
Oh.
Wow.
Slide in there.
That's exciting.
Yeah,
and that's the thing about our area. I just feel like there's so much need and so much opportunity here. So, I mean, kudos to Hospice Care for recognizing that and figuring out a way to solve a problem that's really happening here. So
And that's a business decision too. Also, I mean, definition of sales is like find a problem and solve it.
Absolutely.
Right? So, I mean, was
Absolutely.
that a decision on your part? Like, I mean, obviously you're in a business that's very caring and you need to, but at the end of the day, it's a business. So, were you saying other hospices are not doing this? We're going to do this to curb the market, essentially.
Essentially, yes. What we did was we did a community survey and just an assessment of the needs, and we found a gap in services.
Yeah.
And
so not only are you helping your own business, but you're also providing something awesome for everybody in the community. So
it's hard because we're still a business, so we have to function like a business. We're not looking at the bottom line holistically, but we are paying attention to it because we have to. We have to pay who work for us, right?
Yeah.
But if we can fill a gap and financially make it make sense, that's a win-win for us.
Yeah.
Because we don't have market shareholders that we're sending out dividends to. We're just looking to break even, or even if we're negative, we have generous donors who will come in and help supplement that. Also, Hospice Care of the Lowcountry is a debt-free nonprofit, and we own our building. We don't have any debt, and so that allows us to do a lot more financially, but with our investments, and so that really helps with decision making.
That's incredible. So new year, what does this year look like for hospice, and maybe not just for hospice, but for you? I mean, are you
for Jimmy Diamond?
Are you a resolution guy, or?
I'm more of like a holistic approach to goals.
Okay.
I'm not a new year, new me, let's redefine this
person.
I'm let's build off what's already there and try to become a better person. I'm an old school guy when it comes to just who I am philosophically. And so like I go back to basics. Be kind.
Yeah.
I want to be kinder this year, and really practice with intentional leadership to the community, in my family, and just in general. As a business, it's intentional growth with intentional outcomes, patient-centered and patient-focused. It's that simple.
Yeah.
And I think simplicity is something that we could all do better at, and let people understand who we are and what we're doing. So I want to be kind and be intentional, both professionally and in my personal life.
I love that. I might steal it because I don't have a resolution yet. I don't know that I will at this point. Can you set resolutions at this point in January? But
anytime.
Yeah. Is there anything that you would say has been kind of your key to success, or maybe it's a really good piece of business advice that you've received?
Yeah, I've been asked that a couple of times, and I'm like, why are they asking me this? I'm like very new in my career.
Because we have to know.
But it costs some like strategic thinking, and it's going to be a little cliche, but the biggest thing that I can offer an advice is to fail often, and then talk about those failures.
Yeah.
So we just implemented new meetings, and I know everyone's like, oh, meeting, cringeworthy.
Yeah.
But we have failure meetings with my senior leadership team, and we talk about our failures, and we talk about why we failed, and then we talk about how we're going to turn that failure into an opportunity to increase our business or to increase the outcome to a positive outcome. That has been a game changer.
Yeah.
And so when you can openly talk about the negatives and the failure, I mean, it causes this whole new open communication where I have people come to me and being like, I messed up today. This is what happened. Yeah. And then you're like, okay, let's fix this. So we're ahead of the game when it comes to our failures. Whereas sometimes when you're in a business, you're like, I messed up. Like, let me figure out if I can fix this on my own. And then it progressively gets worse. And so by fostering an environment of promoting failure, it is drastically changed our approach to almost every single, not only problem, but just outcome for our organization in general.
Yeah, it helps you learn. I mean, I'm a big believer in be a thumb pointer, not a finger pointer. So
I love that.
I like that.
Yeah.
Even if it's something like in my world that really wasn't my fault, like somehow you can look back and say, I somehow could have communicated this better.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I just had a file where I told the guy over and over again, we cannot take this route to get you approved for this loan. We have to go this other way. And he, no, just do it. We almost didn't close the thing.
Yeah.
And like, yes, everybody else could say, well, your client, you work for the client, they told you to do this. But I could have said, no, I won't do it unless we do it my way. Right. And then it wouldn't have been so stressful at the end of the day. So accountability and addressing the failures, the problems is just upfront is going to keep you from, having something fester. Especially if your staff are afraid to tell you, oh, I screwed up.
Yeah, it goes into this like whole thought leadership. I don't know if you guys have ever explored that, but the intentional being open to other avenues of business and avenues of thinking and adapting to people is this whole new kind of buzzword of thought leadership. And thinking before you speak and thinking before you react, and then exploring all the possibilities of what could happen if you react this way. And or as a therapist would say, stepping back and evaluating yourself.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we all did that a lot, especially before public speaking or announcing an opinion, it could really just help in general. Because you could have reacted emotionally to that and been
Sure.
like, no, I'm done, lost a
Right.
client, lost a
Right,
business.
exactly.
And then who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
But instead, you close the deal, and now you're moving forward with
Right.
hopefully his network and your network
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you got some money out of it as
For
well.
sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I just love the concept of failure meetings, and it's truly something that I'm adopting with my team and something that we need to talk about more, because we're perpetually learning, all of us, right? And especially in industries like ours, where we have to be innovative, we have to stay up to date on all the rules and the guidelines that follow. That if we're not up to date on that and failures happen, then we just have to figure out how to get better and adopt those failures and accept them and figure out what we're going to do differently. So yeah, I love the idea of failure meetings. And again too, like I've heard social media be called a highlight reel, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I feel that translates to a lot of businesses as well, because they're constantly sharing their positives and their successes, and you don't see the behind the scenes. And I think about the individual in these organizations that do fail and they think, what's wrong with me? Like, why is everybody else succeeding? What am I doing wrong? And being able to kind of shift that mindset, it's like, okay, how can I learn from this? Like, how can I change my process or my procedures to ensure that this doesn't happen again?
Right.
So
yeah, I really like that. And then it's like, I despise the word expert, because really, who is actually an expert in their industry? Even physicians and nurses, they're not experts. They are just well informed and educated in their domains. But there's this underlying thing that they must all do in order to stay informed, and that's to continue to fail and continue to educate themselves on what they're learning and what they want to learn. And so it goes back to Facebook being a highlight reel of all this success, but what did those people do to become successful? I think about the flop to become a realtor, because sales were like surging. And then I think you and I were just talking the other day that now you're going to start seeing all these realtors, or it's already been happening, the realtors that were making no money because they jumped in for the money. And they didn't have that education, and they were not well informed on what was happening. And that happens in every industry.
Oh yeah, my industries. I mean, realtors aren't doing business most of the I think, but I mean, I've learned from a lot of especially in the mortgage world, because there's so many guidelines, and I always say it's impossible to know every single one. We're just not calculators, So then you run into that situation, it's like, okay, I'm going to have to remember that for next time, right? And you fix it, but someone, actually I heard, he's a big guy in the mortgage world, Matt Ishba, who owns UWM, always says, don't let great get in the way of perfect. Or don't let perfect get in the way of great. So it's like, stop focusing, nobody's perfect. Kind of the measure once, cut once mentality. Or no, measure once, cut twice. So it's like, just do it, figure it out later. If there's a mistake along the line, it's not going to be the end of the world. And I think that's how growth is made, professionally.
I love what you said about perfect, because my therapist would tell you that I had this irrational goal of always being perfect, right? And she said, nobody believes perfect. People believe what they can relate to, and the fact is we all fail. We all have something in our lives that probably embarrasses us or that we're dealing with that's just a struggle. And so if we become more relatable, it'll actually help grow your business. Right. Because people go to people they can relate to. And so I love we can be great, we can strive to be great, but perfection is just unattainable. And if you are perfect, I would highly suggest looking in the mirror.
That's a big red flag.
And being more real.
They're perfect, or somebody else is perfect. It's like, you don't want to idolize, or put someone on a pedestal and be like, oh, they're perfect. Like, no, probably not.
And it can be like, vulnerability is such an underserved trait. Like, I was talking to Angela the other day. There's no way 5 years ago I would have walked out of my house without my hair fixed, flattened down, crisp shirt, like, ready to go. And like this morning, I was like, I go get my hair cut for this podcast. And that would have never happened, because the fact is, I'm a real person. I get my hair cut, and I'm not perfect, and I'm gonna have blemishes on my face some days, gain some weight, lose some weight, and it's just Be real.
Sounds like you're human.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it goes back. Humankind. Be kind, be
Right.
human, be real.
I love it.
Be
Yeah.
simple, move forward.
Yeah.
All right, what's next on our list for Jimmy D?
I don't know. What do you think you want to ask?
So when it pertains to business, I like talking about business. I
Yeah.
love motivational podcasts, and I love hearing it because I think it gives me, a wider mindset. But so you're a CEO of a company or a young guy, big company, CEO, that's a nice title to have for your name.
Yeah.
What's been the biggest hurdle that you've kind of found? It can be a very isolated incident or it could be something bigger, but
Yeah, it's CEO is a big title. It's also can be super overly fancy because the weight that comes with that title I did not anticipate.
Right.
Sleepless nights, worrying through the roof sometimes.
yeah.
But the thing that I think has helped me the most, or that was my biggest kind of hurdle, if you will, is going to go back to change.
Mm-hmm.
I love change. Like
Yeah,
you
yeah.
throw a new idea at me and I'm like, woo, let's go.
Yeah.
And so going back to that thought leadership is understanding that just because you need to change doesn't mean that you change without any direction.
Right.
So it's taking that change, putting it into a timeline, selling it to your organization and doing it correctly. Like I'm like, grow. I want to impact as many people as possible. But you don't want to grow for growth's sake.
Sure.
Because then it's going to be detrimental. But if you
Right.
grow with intention, then there becomes more meaning. So for me, it's being in an organization our size that's in a state of change, but making sure that it's intentional change has been the biggest difficulty, but also the largest opportunity.
Yeah. So this has kind of become a business buzzword, at least in my industry. I'm sure that it's everywhere else. But what gets you out of bed in the morning? Like what would you say is your biggest why in terms of what you do?
My alarm clock is what
Right? Yeah, I
know. Right? No, again.
Coffee's my main motivator. I don't know.
Yeah. I do get to wake up and do something I love every single day.
Yeah.
So, when never ask me about my schedule, because people are going to be like, whoa, give me a life. Because I work all the time because I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. I'm on the clock all the time, every single day.
Yeah.
I do get breaks, but I love what I do. So my mantra is helping others. It doesn't matter how. Doesn't matter when. I just like helping others. I would love to say, it's the mission of Hospice Care of the Lowcountry. That's what I'm supposed to say. It's the vision, but it's really helping others. I'll do a private fundraiser for someone that needs it in the community. I will volunteer. I will do anything I can, donate my clothes, anything to help a neighbor, someone I don't know. It's just about helping others because I feel like if you do as much as you can in the community, when it comes your time to need that help back, people are going to stand together and rally around you.
Absolutely. Yeah,
that makes sense. I mean, helping others, you're obviously in a healthcare role, right?
Yeah.
But any occupation you do is essentially helping others achieve something.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't think of an occupation if you have a restaurant, you're helping somebody have a dining experience.
right.
Yeah.
We're helping people achieve home ownership. Doctors, people in healthcare help people with their health, obviously. So I think that's a big, for sure. I mean, I feel like I like helping people get a mortgage. I guess mortgages are not interesting, but I also I like being competitive. I like
Right.
business. I
Yeah.
like business.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, Will, what's your hobby? I don't know, business.
Right. Work.
I go home, be with my family.
Right.
I'm with my family, and when I'm not there, I'm here trying to win.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be successful, whether it's selling mortgages or if I was selling, sponges. I try to be the best.
I think there's a higher level. It sounds like your passion is business and feeding the community and then investing in your family, which is really cool. For me, just the helping others is some people go to work, they clock in and they clock out.
Yeah.
I'm not a clock out guy. I'm clocked in and I'm clocked into helping others. I'm not clocking in for a paycheck. And so it sounds really okay, whatever, you have to clock out, but like
Mhm.
everything in my day revolves around some type of investment into others.
Sure.
And into myself, because you have to, like, have you ever heard the saying, you can't love somebody else if you don't love yourself?
Right.
And so, like, every day I'm trying to love myself more, but I'm really trying to get the selfish ways out of my life.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It sucks sometimes because,
Yeah.
I want to stay at home and watch Netflix from 9 to 5.
Right? Don't we all?
but having some of those intentional moments is really, and really just, I just did a fundraiser for someone who had a very life-threatening, serious illness, and we didn't have to, but when I got a phone call from her saying, you don't understand how you just changed my whole life, because I thought I was headed to hospice, but instead now, I'm in Arizona and I'm getting to take these treatments that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
And the Lowcountry community came together and helped raise, over $10,000 for me to put the down payment on the treatment.
Oh, that's awesome.
Incredible.
And so now, like, that's how I sleep at night.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Talk about satisfying work. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, and the thing that I find so interesting about that, and kind of how it translates to the bigger picture, is helping people is so much easier than we think it is.
Yeah.
You have an idea, it takes action, and then I found that you can count on community, because you're always going to find the people in our community that are willing to contribute, that are like-minded like you, that their why is helping people. So I think just being the person that sees the need and taking action is probably the easiest step that so many of us overlook.
It is, and it's like people give to people they trust.
Yeah.
And so, like, Will, you're a good person. If you throw out on social media or like, hey, James, this person really needs help, I'm going to trust you and say, okay, I got $50, I got $100, or my buddy over here will give $2,500, and so that's what's not just great about our community. I think we see it at a larger level with our community. But it's also just across the nation. Like, Angela, if you come to me and you're like, hey, like, this person's struggling, I'm going to trust your judgment because you're a good person in my eyes. Right. And so when you have that integrity and that compassion and that selflessness, people invest in what you have passion for, and that's where you see the Lowcountry really come together. I mean, for Beaufort County, South Carolina, to have over 300 registered nonprofits that are all sustainable, is like blows your mind, and that's because people are investing in people they trust, and those people that they trust and their money is going towards is impacting the community, and you see it, and it's beautiful. I mean, it's just beautiful. You can't say anything else about it.
Right.
Well, on that topic, I've heard that you can throw a hell of a fundraiser.
Yes.
We're talking about business, we're talking about health, but how have you gotten it down to a science of throwing
It is
parties
a well-oiled machine,
where everybody
for
wants
sure.
to just throw money at you? I mean,
Yeah.
Well, I will say you don't see the behind the scenes, but it intentional. What are you trying to do? Who's your audience? Know your audience. And so, we do Yacht Hop every year. It's one of my favorite events.
Me too.
Anything with boats, alcohol,
Right.
outcomes, good outcomes for helping the community. It's a win-win, right?
Yeah.
awesome.
But it's really just about organizing what's happening. Sometimes when you throw an event, you're like, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this, and then you never do any of it well.
Right.
But if you just have a target, like, let's bring in the yachts, let's have this type of criteria for the yachts, we bring them in. That alone is a huge task. So it takes a huge undertaking. And then we're like, we want some of the best cuisine there that you can get, and feature the Lowcountry cuisine. So then that's the chef aspect. But then we're like, we want fun people there. Like, people are really what it's all about.
Right.
So then you go out and you find those influencers that you trust in the community, and you're like, hey, bring 10 friends.
Yeah.
Hey, bring 5 friends. Or hey, Angela, I need you here on this date.
Yeah.
Bring the crew.
Yes.
And then when they start vibing, which I know a lot of people don't like that word, when they start vibing, it's a done deal.
Yeah.
If you can get the vibe and that, just the mood and the feel, and just like a fundraiser, I tell you, if you get that first person or 3 or 4 people to throw up those $5,000,
then it's like a status thing.
It's happening.
Oh yeah.
It's happening.
Now it's competition.
It's competition. It's like, they got 5,000, I got 5,000.
Right.
And then it's just like it becomes this helpful thing, and then at the end of it, everyone feels really good about it.
Yeah.
And you had a really nice time because people like to be around people for the most part.
Yeah.
Throw a party in there and it's great. And we need to put the fun back in fundraising.
Yeah.
It's usually
I love
May,
that.
right?
Huh?
Is it May?
Yeah, May 18th this year
May
in
18th,
beautiful
okay.
Wexford, which is a prominent community on Hilton Head Island. We're blessed in Hilton Head, lock systems are not common up and down the East Coast, and we have 2 lock systems so we can control the level of the water to make sure that there's no blocking of the boats, no one falling overboard.
Yeah.
And so it's just a really beautiful night.
Yeah.
Are there any like exclusive things that you can tell us about the party?
Yeah.
I'm all
Fancy people or fancy
about
sponsors?
the suspense, and so we will not be releasing any of that just yet.
That just makes
But
me more excited.
I will tell you that there's going to be a lot of exclusivity to this one because of just safety reasons.
Sure.
So where before 600 people got access, I'm sorry, but only 400 people will have access this year. Which is kind of nice. It's going to make it really exclusive, but also just help us control that vibe that we're going
Absolutely.
Still white?
It's always going to be white.
Always.
I love it.
It's the white event of the year. White attire. It's summer vibes, and most of the boats are white, which is nice.
Angela's dressed for it now.
Yeah, she's ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Black.
Is it today?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay.
Yeah, no, Wexford is truly probably the best location for such an event like this. It's such a beautiful setting, really showcasing everything that the Lowcountry has to offer. So kind of shifting to that subject, we live in such an incredible area. I mean, I say it's so easy for me to sell as a real estate agent because the area really sells itself. I get people that are coming in town and I give them the highlights. Go check out Old Town, check out these areas of Hilton Head. And then they come back to me for showings the next day and they're like, yeah, let's go find a house because I want to be here.
Oh, yeah.
And so what is it about the Lowcountry that you love the most? Is there anything, or I should say, what keeps you here other than having such an important job for our community? But what is it about the Lowcountry that you love so much, and what makes you want to stay?
Yeah, for me, when I first moved here, obviously the beach, right?
Sure.
Right.
Everyone comes to the beach. But what happened is I fell in love with the beauty. And as I got older, old-ish, I'm only 33. So. I really vibed with like big city feels. But I noticed when I would visit cities that it was almost like some people were just lost. Like they didn't have like a huge network and people didn't know each other. So I love in the Lowcountry, you have access to big city feels. Like you have Charleston, you have Savannah, we have an international airport that we can fly out to anywhere we need to get to. But we have this like slow country vibe where I can go down the street and be like, oh, hey, Angela, how's it going? And people on a first name basis with like the Southern hospitality of smiling and shaking hands and taking the extra time. I don't think they call it the slow country because we're slow. I think it's because we take intentional time. A lunch meeting can be an hour and a half.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be 30 minutes of grabbing and going. Having...
Big fan of a Friday lunch. Go back to the office. Probably not.
It's not unusual to go have a cocktail for lunch and have a personal conversation with someone, and you invite people to your home and you host parties and you kind of bask in this vibe that we have in the Lowcountry, and it's very tranquil, it's very relaxing, and honestly it's very safe. It's safe to have a family here, and I encourage millennials to move here because my career has skyrocketed. It's more progressive than what people think. And
Bluffton also, like Bluffton's super unique. In what Bluffton is, like everyone thinks, oh, tiny little
I know,
rinky-dink town, but like not at all. I mean, there's marketing companies. You look at your 33-year-old CEO. The promenade, like when you drive through the promenade and it's like bustling, it feels like you're in the city. I mean, there's like
really
30
does,
golf carts, by the way, when you
Yeah.
drive golf carts around. It feels like you're in the city, so it's not like this tiny little town. So that definitely
Well, I think we have this higher level of luxury that's actually attainable.
That is so true. That is so true.
It's I see Wexford, I see Sea Pines, I see nice restaurants, but I can also have the resources to get to that level to be able to afford it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we have a lot of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Like sometimes when you're in a bigger city, you see penthouse suite and it almost seems unattainable.
Yes.
Like climb the corporate ladder slowly.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities, and we live in a retirement community, so like people are retiring left and right, and those opportunities are there for you to
I appreciate your
take.
faith in me.
Yeah.
Do you think Wexford's the most exclusive neighborhood in the area?
I don't know. I think if you're talking about the island, maybe, but I think you have Colleton River that's very like right there with it in Bluffton, and then you just have some of those communities like I forget, it's in Hardyville Point, Riverton
Point.
Riverton Point. I mean, I think it's like an up and coming neighborhood that you don't really hear a lot about.
Yeah.
So I think when you're talking about exclusivity, it's really like Wexford is probably the most well-known exclusive community, but then I think you have like Colleton River, who's like, how do I get in there? Like, and then you have like Riverton Point, which is up and coming, in my opinion, where like that's like I'm intrigued by Riverton Point because nobody talks about it. You don't really know that it's there. It's kind of off to itself, and then you just have communities. I mean, so many communities. I think you can find what you want for your family.
Yeah, I heard someone was talking about, well, the initiation fees for those communities are excessive, but then a great argument was, well, people that are coming from California or some of these states that have like huge taxes.
Oh, for sure.
They're paying that amount of money anyways, but they're not walking out their front door and being referred to as Mr. Dismond.
Yeah.
At the local restaurant by everybody that walks by. Like they can just walk in their backyard and get, on the fairway and start playing golf. So it's like they're spending the same amount of money, but the level of happiness and just of what they're trying to achieve is on a different,
When at the end of the day, you're paying for customer service here at a higher level, in my opinion. I think it's hard for millennials to grasp paying an initiation fee.
For sure. It's
like we're like,
market.
I want my money, right?
Right, yeah. It's like, what is that for? How much is it?
But like as you look at the older generations, it's an investment.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. It's an investment in your lifestyle.
But even for those people that say they don't like that, I think if it was attainable, or if they thought it was attainable, you would go for it. And so I love Wexford. I love most of the gated communities in our area, but like for me, like I'm not a big golfer, so like golfing's not important to me. A nice clubhouse with some nice food with a good bar is super important to me. But I want to be accessible too. Like, so I don't want to drive 20 minutes from the gate to get to my house.
Right. Yes.
That's Stone Bluff. That's a exclusive.
Yeah.
Forgot about that. That's how exclusive it is. I forgot about it.
And then you have like your far-fetched like people who just like to be off the grid. You have Defusky, like Hague Point, like I don't want to take a boat to get to my house. But you may love it. So I think it's just all about what you want, what you need, and just do you.
Yeah, I think that's why you stayed here. I think that's pretty much why everybody else does too.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think it's a unique answer, but we love it.
Yeah.
Well, it's just such an easy answer, and it's consistent.
It's nice here. The beach is great.
Yeah.
People are nice for the most part.
Yeah.
I think to me, you just have to find a place that's home, and Bluffton, Hilton Head, Hardyville, and Beaufort are my home.
Yeah.
Where my house is in that area isn't super important. That's just our zip code. But like those 4 cities and towns, like that's my home.
Absolutely.
I consider that my community.
Yeah.
So as we start to wrap up here, we like to ask our guests these 3 questions.
Oh no.
Rapid fire. Are you ready?
Okay.
What is your favorite restaurant here?
Ah!
And you have to choose.
Give us a restaurant if you got one in Hilton Head or one in Bluffton. That's cool too.
Yeah.
I think it's hard. This is not an endorsement.
Yeah, sure.
Yep.
Gosh.
We'll put a disclaimer at the end.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I just think I'm such a foodie. So I also forget names of restaurants often, which probably
describe it to me.
Probably not good for branding. So, but I want a nice dinner on the island. I'm gonna go to Bodie's.
Bodie's.
Yes. I have not been there yet, but I've heard amazing things.
And you know why? It's from the door to the table to the exit. Your customer service and food is phenomenal.
The family style sides.
Oh, so good.
Potato thing. That is just awesome.
Yeah.
New Year's resolution though, can't eat that.
Yeah, if I'm jumping out in Bluffton for something, for like work related, I love the Juice Hive. Like, I'm gonna grab me a juice, get me a nice salad.
There we go. Back on the resolution cake.
Yeah,
there we go.
It's more
We're
like
back.
New Year, yeah. And then, gosh, Beaufort has so many great options, but Hearth Pizza is like to die for. It's right on the water.
I've heard that, but I've also never been to that.
Oh, it's good. They cook it in like this wood burning or this like
hearth?
stove. I guess. I don't
I
know.
think it's
I don't know what a hearth
I
is.
don't know.
They have the best charcuterie board in the Lowcountry.
Oh,
by the way.
good to know.
And then I'm a big component of Savannah too. So
Yes.
if you want a nice burger, Betty Bombers in Savannah is like
Bombers.
the bomb.
Okay.
And it's in a VFW. It's like military theme.
Oh,
so it's like
cool.
a nice little gift back.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then Hardyville, you and I ate there once, I forget. It's off the exit. I think
Fuzzy's Tacos?
Fuzzy tacos.
Yes.
Tacos.
I love fuzzy tacos.
They do have great
I feel like
tacos.
I have some fuzzy tacos in the back of my refrigerator.
Yeah, not those. No, but Fuzzy's is like, it's a chain, but it's legit good.
Yeah.
Is that
It
like
is
the firework
really good.
place?
It's
No, it's
It's attached
you
to a
remember-
gas station.
Yeah, it's attached to a
Yeah.
gas station, so you know it's good. But it's the old Joker Joe's. I don't think it's Joker Joe's anymore. It's,
Across
I think it's
the
like an
Coastal
in-market,
Carolina
if I can
Hospital?
recall.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The gas station over there,
Yeah.
Dunkin's over there, right?
Yeah.
That's where the fireworks across 278. I think.
Oh yeah, that's right. It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Huge
but
firework.
God,
It was, at
it's
least when I
so
was in
good.
college.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
All right, next question.
Mm-hmm.
What is your favorite event in the Lowcountry? I don't think you can say Yacht. If you want to, we could use it, but
Yacht Hop is my favorite event. Just
Uh-huh.
Second.
What's your second favorite event?
That's gonna be really hard, but Sean and I every year, I wouldn't say that it's an event, but we love the flyovers at 4th of July on the beach. If you haven't
yes.
experienced it, it's a game changer.
That's
like
so cool.
to watch the old planes and the fighter
Mhm.
jets fly
Yeah.
over. Also, it's just it's the heart of our community too.
Yeah.
Like the military bases here, but like it is legit an experience.
Yeah.
And we do it every year, 4th of July. We're on the
Yeah.
beach. I'm getting sun poisoning because I'm so white.
yeah,
And we're watching those planes.
yeah. That's the cool thing about those too. Like I have friends that live in Edisto, so it's all the same coast. So
Yeah, you
Yeah.
can track it.
they'll text me and be like, "Oh, just flew
Coming
by,
your
so I can
way."
expect it like in 10 minutes." Or
Yeah.
It's like a connection
Days
for the
to fly.
whole East Coast. It's
Yeah,
really cool.
it's so
It's really
cool.
cool.
I love that they do
Good
that.
answer. I was not expecting that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Also, can't be promoting any other events. No, I'm just kidding.
Last question. Now, we of course live in a place where everybody vacations, but where do you vacation?
So we are a warm tropical type
Mhm.
family, like we love it, and one of our favorite places is Kauai.
Oh.
So it's a secluded island, a part of the Hawaiian Islands. It's all hiking, some cliff diving, just like off the grid, red clay mud roads. Like
Oh, that's
we
so
love
cool.
it. We get back
Very
there
cool.
as much as possible.
Mhm.
But we love international travel. Like we don't want to really go anywhere more than twice.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way.
We
I
want to
never-
explore.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's so much of the world to see. It
Yeah.
just it kind of stinks to take the same. I shouldn't say it stinks to take the same vacation twice,
Sure.
but it's a big world, and there's a lot of places to see.
God, what is the flight like from here to Hawaii?
It's not too bad. I do anything to fly around Atlanta. So my paths aren't traditional from
Yeah.
some people.
Yeah.
So we'll do like from Charlotte over to LAX, and then from LAX straight to Kauai. About 15 to 20 hours. The worst flight I've ever experienced though was from here to Sydney, Australia, and that was
Ooh.
27 hours.
Oh man.
The last leg was 15.
Wow.
I have family in Australia, or my in-laws are in Australia, so I'll
Definitely
be there
go.
at some point.
Sydney is like, it's amazing.
I just
Is
saw a
it
video.
really?
Yeah, we loved it.
My brother-in-law lives and sister-in-law live in Sydney, and they were a bat. Guys, I'm talking about not like a bat like we have. The size of a cat.
Really?
Like a fruit
Wings
bat.
like
Yeah.
this long was dead in
Oh
his front
my
yard.
gosh.
Like,
I feel like I always hear the like wildlife stories from
Yeah.
Australia. So I'm like massive spiders, huge snakes.
Yeah.
Sydney is
I'd love
like
to go, but
beach vibes New York.
really?
Yeah, like New York
With
City
giant
beach
bats.
vibes.
with giant bats.
I didn't
New York
see any
bats
bats.
with wings.
But like like my husband is not like a super like He's very introverted. The whole time we were in Sydney, Australia, he was like, I'll move here.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Did you guys actually consider it?
Yeah, we looked at some real estate.
No way.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
We'd probably be out with the bats.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, James, so much. It's been so awesome talking to you and just learning more about Hospice Care, the Lowcountry. From a personal perspective, I savor any time I get with you just because I love you so much and you're just so wonderful. How can we support Hospice Care of the Lowcountry?
Yeah, so we're your traditional nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously we're supported by grants and donations. So you can visit our website, www.hospicecarelc.org,
Mm-hmm.
and donate. We also have a huge volunteer component. We have about 180 active volunteers, and we're always looking for more.
Mm-hmm.
So volunteering is huge. Our board of directors is volunteers as well. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
looking for a higher level of leadership, we would love to have direction there.
Mm-hmm.
But I also just stop by the office, have a conversation with us. We're very personal people. We'd love to just give you a tour and see what best fits your needs with ours.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thank
Awesome,
you
man.
so much.
Thank you.
No, thank you guys.
Will, you want to share who our next guest will be?
Yep, our next guest is going to be Jevin Daly.
Nice. Love
Musical
I know.
genius, personal
Yep.
friend, and just a character that pretty much everybody in Bluffton and Hilton Head knows. So that'll be pretty interesting, just talking about what he does, how he got there, and what drives him to do the things he does. So
That's awesome. Well,
Yeah.
I'm excited. All right. Well, thank you so much, James.
Yes.
All right.
I'm glad I didn't have to go after Jevin.
Right.
Hard act to follow.
Right.
Oh, wow.
And cut.
Interesting Minds of the Lowcountry is a production of Loco Media LLC, a grassroots local media company creating content that celebrates the South Carolina Lowcountry. The hosts of the show are Angela Huser of the Anchor Home Group and Will Savage of PMC Mortgage. The producer is Justin Jarrett. Join us next month as we introduce you to another Interesting Mind of the Lowcountry.